Hi, I hope you'll stick around with me today and paint this holiday floral bouquet in a teapot. Today I'm using my St. Petersburg Classics watercolors. I have my size 6 round brush by Artegria. This is the Intuition round. I'm using a 4x5 cut of my 350 GSM watercolor paper from Dollar Tree, and I have a cloth handy for dabbing any mistakes or puddles, and 2 jars of water, one for rinsing my dirty brushes and one for painting. Let's get started. So today I want to start with actually really no plan in mind other than I have penciled in this little teapot, and I plan to use kind of some Christmassy reds and greens, but I just kind of want to, I don't know, let my intuition guide me today. So I'm starting with some red centers, just these kind of dotty centers, you know, my favorites. Very puddly, very loose. Maybe something kind of behind here. Yeah, I like it. Okay, give that a pretty decent rinse, and then I'm dragging my paintbrush off so that I don't have too much extra water. And then I just want to go in and create some petals. And I don't really have a name for these flowers. I just call them Christmas flowers. Not really poinsettias or geraniums or anything, but just some red flowers. And I'm just brushing into the pigment, into and out of. These have about 5 petals. Does not matter if the petals touch from any of the other flowers. It's fine if they touch, if they overlap. That may have been a bit too much water, but listen, we're just going to go with that. Okay, while those are drying, I'm going to take my green. That was just red from my palette. This is just green. These are just your traditional red, and green, which I don't tend to use very much. I use more olive, and I tend to favor more burgundies or pinks, but just get some leaves in here. Okay, just some little hints of leaves. Not really trying to make these, you know, anything perfect or specific. Just kind of getting these in here. You know, other than swatching this green, I'm not sure I've ever actually used it. Now, that went a bit more into my flower than I wanted, so I just dabbed some of that pigment back out, which worked very well. Okay, maybe get some stems started in here. Well, my goodness, I'm just going to keep doing that, huh? Just dab that pigment out. But you'll see I'm trying mostly not to touch these flowers with my green. And that's just because I don't really want the colors to get super muddy or anything like that. Okay, and how about a few leaves in here? Just kind of soak that up. I don't mind the minor bleeds at all, actually. And I think it can be, you know, it just is kind of a feature of watercolor, and so I don't mind that, but I just don't want that overly affected. Okay, now maybe just a bit of a rinse, because I'd still like that pigment on here, but I just want to take a lighter wash, well, and just get some extra little stems and shadows. some things that might be leaves, just kind of in this arrangement here. And, you know, coming out behind, so not really quite as soft as I would like. I just dabbed some of the pigment from my brush, in fact, onto my napkin there, my cloth. Okay, I like it. Okay, I want to go back in to those flowers. I think I still have enough moisture in those to add some more pigment in the centers. And I'm just going with this same red. And I just want these to kind of bleed a bit more, but also I want to have some kind of some gradient in these petals. Yeah, I like that. You could do this with a coordinating or complementary color as well. But I like that real well. Just nice and soft and okay. And I think I'd like some I think I'd like to make this a bit asymmetrical, or just have a little more room to kind of bring some other greens in there. So I think I'll put a flower right here. Just puddle this in really good. And how about out here? Okay, nice little rinse, but it doesn't have to be perfect, just enough to get most of that pigment off. And then just being careful that I'm not carrying too much water into this. But looks like I don't have quite enough. Okay. And then I'd like to have something like maybe a eucalyptus. And you can use different tones of green for eucalyptus, I think. I think it's really forgiving. But I kind of like a mint type of shade, just something that has a little bit of, I guess, blue in it. And so I'll show you how I like to do some eucalyptus. So I'd like some coming out here. And so I just want to have some stems. And then I just like to kind of make these just little dashes, I guess. And then rinsing my brush and going back with clean water. And then again, being careful not to take too much water into that. But I'm just going to touch these. Eucalyptus likes to grow kind of in these crisscrossy ways, and so just making sure that this is kind of random looking and that the leaves are somewhat overlappy. Okay, let's get another one going. But let's do this. Let's kind of go over that. There we go. And just these funny little, marks. Eucalyptus can be kind of rounded, and then some of the petals can be just kind of flat. So just play with it. Eucalyptus is really fun to try to create. It's not picky. Really was not sure what I would paint today. Kind of wanted to paint something, you know, Christmas tree-ish. Okay, let's get some of these greens down here. Just want to make sure we have some. All right, little rinse, little clean water. Just make sure not to drag too much. These are really small, and you know, I could use a smaller brush, but why would I do that? Now I'm going to start with these over here. This pigment is a little more dry for some reason. I think I just had more water on my brush when I did these. And then another great thing is that as you go, you're kind of picking up pigment from what you've painted, and so it kind of redeposits it. And I don't know, I just think that's kind of fun. But some slashes, some, you know, some things that are like leaves. And just have a few just kind of in this arrangement, maybe just kind of in between and in the background. Yeah, I like it. I think these are turning out better than this original one, but listen, we're not being too picky. Just dropping in a bit of the darker pigment on this one because I did lose so much. So fun. Gosh, these are so fun. So now maybe a few more leaves, stems. I'm looking particularly at these green leaves and some of the flowers that just don't really, they don't have any stems. Now remember, I don't think every flower has to have a stem in an arrangement. You don't need it. And for me, my particular style is that I want things to look just less than perfectly, I don't know, planned, or I don't know. I just like it to have some of that random charm, and I don't know how much of that is, you know, it's my particular style and how much is that I just like to paint that way. I just like to keep it relaxed, so you can too. Okay, and then I'm just brushing off a bit of that pigment and water and going with some, maybe just some other greens out here. Just kind of fleshing that out and filling it out some. Yeah, super sweet. Okay, and for these eucalyptus, you can go back, I'm going to, and just kind of add some stem in there. This one is still entirely too wet to really even work with. fun. Very fun. Okay, now I want to work on my little teapot just a little. And I actually kind of want to erase some of that away. Just because I want this to be a white teapot. You know, if you have metallics, you could really use that. So if you have some metallics, you could use those as well for the teapot. You could add details. I think that could be very pretty. And I didn't erase it all away, and I don't think that that's really necessary. So I'm using my ivory black, and I just want a hint of shadow, definition. This ivory black is it's a dark black, so what I'm doing is just trying to get a hint of it on my brush, just enough to create kind of a shadow. And usually what I do is I kind of wet the area that I'm going to work with, but I want a good bit of shadow up here at the top, just underneath these underneath the plants. And then I want more shadow up underneath, like underneath the handle. And I just want to go ahead and do that while it's dry. Okay, and then what I want to do is just go in, and I probably still have some of this pigment on my brush, but it's okay. I'm just going to go from the side here. And I want to blend out from that side. So then I'm just kind of rinsing and then blending into that. And I'll tell you, one of the keys for me is this. This side is my light side, and so I really try not to completely fill that. I like to have a lot more highlight over there. So the way that I do that is not to fill it entirely. And in fact, I have a good amount of, it's not a good amount, but it's a bit more pigment than I want over there, and so I'm just blotting it. And I kind of made a mess of this at the bottom, but I'm not worried. There's going to be a shadow there, so I'm just going to blend that. See that? Super easy. And I love that already. I feel like that is pretty much what I want. Just did not want this to be too fussy at all for the kettle at all. Maybe a little bit of blending here, a little of the gray in that. And then maybe blend a bit in the handle. Kind of was having trouble seeing what I had done here, and so I went a bit lower for this bottom part of the handle, and that's fine. I'll just erase away what I initially drew, because it's a bit on top of this that I painted in. But it is a little confusing to look at. And I think I have a little too much of the pigment on that, so I'm just kind of wetting it, and then I'll dab it. But I love that. I think I'll put a little more shadow in here. I just think it could use a tiny bit more to kind of set it apart. And the way I do that is I like to brush in some water and then drop in pigment at that line, and then I just kind of go back and just kind of blend a little. I like it. So fun. And you really could go back in these centers. You could add all kinds of detail, really, just, you know, with your flowers. For holiday stuff, you could add little bits of gold. I think that could be so pretty. But I'm keeping mine just relatively simple. And, uh, and I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you painted along, or that you'll save it and paint it later. I'd love if you would like this video, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. As always, happy painting!